with Atlanta native Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fan, the Preacher Man.
Tonight to Straight Talk, tonight, today, tomorrow, whenever you view it, with yours truly, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and Shannon E. Jones, and Cynthia Water. Tonight, we have a good guest for another guest for us tonight. It's a surprise guest. Well, you already won't be surprised. It's the same gentleman that was there with last week, Ronald Allen. He'll be our special guest again tonight because we're going to do a continuation of our discussion last week. We promised you we were going to do it, and we're going to do it. And tonight we're going to be talking about voting, the importance of voting. We'll be talking about redistricting, gerrymandering, what's going on in Texas and what's going on and why it's important to vote, why voting is important and what they're doing to hamper us from voting because they understand they want to stay in control, and they want to be in control and they want us out of this whole discussion as to who's going to be the controller over our life in terms of politics. Now, God is control of our lives, but our day-to-day living and our day-to-day situation in this world, right? The politicians are. So we must be concerned about who's in office, and we must make sure that we vote every time there's an election, whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's federal. We need to vote in every election, city elections, county elections, state elections, and federal election. We need to vote. Well, I'll be on the other side. We'll be on the other side in a little bit. We'll have Cynthia Waters. She'll be bringing her news and information. Then we'll have a clip with Representative Liz Flusher from Texas talking about what's going on in Texas with Greg Abbott. He hasn't had the same name as mine, but Greg Abbott, he ain't the same person, though, same kind of person. But Greg Abbott, who is the governor of the state of Georgia, and this special section that he has called, supposed to be dealing with the people that was flooded out, and, the flooding with the little kids, all of them that died in the flooding, supposed to be dealing with that, but yet he's slick Greg, trying to get redistricting done to make sure he pleased the governor, the president, Trump, that guy Trump, to please Trump to get 5 more seats for the Republicans. We'll be back on the other side and we'll have more discussion. Don't you go nowhere. You stay right there. This ain't nothing but straight talk.
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast, or more or less. Hey, Bishop Greg. Hey, Pastor Shannon. Hope you all are doing well. Listen, I have some information I want to share with you. Flipper Temple AME Church at 580 Atlanta Student Movement Boulevard in Atlanta will celebrate Women's Day, September the 14th at the 10:45 a.m. service. The guest speaker will be our own Reverend Jackie Johnson. Reverend Elijah Shafar is pastor. Call the church at 404-522-5020 if you need more information. Mayor Andre Dickens invites Atlanta seniors ages 60 and up to a day of estate planning. You will meet with an attorney and take steps to secure your legacy. This will be Saturday, August 16th from 12 to 3. All seniors are invited to this discussion. It's entitled Senior Wills, Design Your Legacy. It will be held at the Pittsburgh Yards, 352 University Avenue in Southwest Atlanta. Now, you should register online at tinyurl/seniorwillsabi. That's tinyurl.com/seniorwills, and you register, and on the day of the event, check-in begins at 11:30 a.m. and the event begins at 12. Now, Bishop Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, he's inviting everyone to Liberty International Church to come out and share in their worship services each Sunday at 10 a.m. Sunday school begins at 9 a.m. Liberty International is located at 1362 Metropolitan Parkway in Southwest Atlanta. Now, If you would like for us to announce your event, just email it to me at straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. And remember to spell the whole thing out. Straight Talk News, okay? And before we leave, I'd like for you to like us, subscribe to us. You'll see those little buttons on the front there. And number 3, share us. Let everybody know what you know. And also leave comments and let us know how we're doing, okay? And in the meantime and in between time, may the Lord God bless you real good. Bye now.
Electoral losses elsewhere by redrawing the map in Texas to discriminate against minority communities.
That was Democratic Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher pushing back against the GOP plan to redraw Texas's congressional maps during this term's special session. Spurred on by President Trump, it's an attempt to lock in the party's majority ahead of the midterms. Let's be clear, redistricting normally only happens every 10 years and after a new census is released. Texas would not have been due for a new map until 2030. Joining us now is Texas Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher. Congresswoman, thank you for being here. During that very hearing, you also said that this redistricting will intentionally dilute the voting strength of minority communities. What did you mean by that?
Well, that's exactly right. So thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for getting right to the issue, because this is something that's happening in Texas, and a lot of people are confused because the governor just called a special session, just added this to the calendar, is referring to a somewhat confusing, to say the least, letter from the Department of Justice. And the bottom line here in Texas is that we already have a gerrymandered map that is drawn to maximize Republican political power in Texas and to discriminate against communities of color. And what we've seen is that in the last redistricting effort, that the map that we're currently operating under, we've just gotten out of a trial over this map for intentional discrimination against minority voters. What we know is that there are 13 districts in Texas that are represented by Democrats in this Congress. And in every single one of them, it is a coalition of minority voters that come together to elect their candidate of choice, and their candidate of choice is a Democrat. And so that means if they do as President Trump has asked and try to eliminate 5 Democratic districts, they will be intentionally diluting the voices and the votes of minority voters. And that is illegal. And so it was really important to me to make that clear to the legislators who are considering this, because that is the test. That's the key here. It is intentional discrimination. That is illegal. And that's exactly what they'll be doing.
Congresswoman, well, you're fighting this in Texas. California Governor Gavin Newsom has opened the door to potentially trying to redistrict in California. And in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, the way that she framed it was that, quote, all's fair in love and war. And if other states violate the rules and are trying to give themselves an advantage, all I'll say is I'm going to look at it closely with Hakeem Jeffries. Are you and other House members on a unified page on the approach forward? Are you engaging in conversations with other Democratic governors about that path? Is that a unified front here at this point? Has that conversation happened?
Absolutely. I think in our Texas delegation and across the Congress, we feel very strongly that we should be playing by the same set of rules. And what we see right now is that President Trump and Texas Republicans are trying to change the rules of the game in the middle of this decade and redistrict Texas. It's not unprecedented, but it is not acceptable. And so it's really important that we make sure that we're using every tool that we have to fight back. And certainly we know that President Trump isn't asking Texas to redraw the maps because he thinks that he's going to lose 5 seats in Texas. He thinks he's going to lose 5 seats or more elsewhere in the country and wants to try to pick them up in Texas. And so we have to look at this as a nationwide strategy on their side, and we need to do that on our side too.
Congresswoman,
Well,
I think for many people
on the other
outside.
side of the Mississippi with news and information, and a lot of information coming from Congresswoman Liz Fletcher about what's going on in Texas. Brothers and sisters, I mean, it is important. Voting is important, as I said earlier. It's important. It's important for those people that say their vote don't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, look at the dilemma we're in today because you did not vote. If you just only would have voted and voted right, not just vote, but you got to vote right too, right? Know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them, and looking at what they're doing. And then sometimes you got to believe what they say, because what they say is what they really mean. You know, some people say it was not that. What they don't say is really what they're really saying. But we got a man sitting in office saying that he was going to be a dictator day one. He said that. And his being on day one. But I'm glad to have Shannon and Ron with me here, and we're gonna have much discussion about this redistricting. And tonight, Shannon, I'm gonna start with Ron. And Ron, you saw the clip, you heard what Representative Fletcher said. What's your take on this redistricting in Texas and what's going on down there in Texas?
Well, we're seeing a consistent effort by the Republican Party to flout the rules of state and national government to secure their political ends. The biggest concern I have about this for Black and Hispanic communities in Texas and throughout the nation is that it seems as if our voting rights and our voice is going to be conditional on what the Republican Party's needs are. The Democratic Party, again, seems to be woefully behind the political curve, having to respond again to another national political move. The Republicans are anticipating Trump to be losing votes in battleground states like Pennsylvania and other places, maybe even places here like in Georgia, in other states all around the nation. And so to make up for those anticipated deficits, they're going to be looking to reissue gerrymandering in Texas mid-decade. And so there seems to be very little momentum to question the legality of this move. It seems like inevitably we're going to accept that the Republicans are going to be able to institute their will again over the rule of law. And, the only political solution the Democrats are offering are trying to duplicate these efforts in states where Democrats hold a political majority, like in California, New York, and other places like that. So if you're a Black and brown voter, what is the likelihood that you're going to receive the type of voter protections and advancement that's going to get your issues to the top of the ticket? If you're a Black and brown voter, a Black and Hispanic voter, I mean, do you really feel connected to either one of these political parties? Because the Republican Party has openly stated that it is for largely white nationalism, corporate interests, and the top 1%. And then you have a Democratic Party that seems to be very hospitable to making sure the top 1% and white nationalists get everything that they need to execute their agenda. So, I'm very concerned as a voter. It was mentioned, the Voters' Rights Act. I was reading an article about this, and I'll end on this point that, many of the the Democratic lawmakers in Texas are appealing to the Rights Act, saying if we allow the Voters' Rights Acts to dwindle down to nothing, then, we're going to be in a position in which voting is going to be conditional for nearly all non-white Americans. But we have to harken back to the fact that the voter rights was already gutted under another Democratic leader, Barack Obama, where a lot of the thresholds and standards for voter protections that states like Texas had to meet was being able to be repealed out of the Voter Rights Act. So, I continue to harken on this point about what the Democratic Party is offering for low-income workers in America, for Black and brown voters in America, because it just continues to see as if we're in some type of, well, we have to respond to what the Republicans can do, and Republicans are going for the throat. So,
all right, Shannon, let me hear what you have to say as it relates to what's going on with this redistricting. And, we talked about it. We've talked about it on several of our shows about redistricting and gerrymandering and those types of things. And I think a lot of people don't understand and the impact though of gerrymandering and redistricting, how it will affect you as a taxpayer.
So I totally agree with everything that Ron just said. I just want to add a couple of things. Obviously, in Texas, there are 38 congressional seats, 25 congressional districts. There are 25 Republican, 11 Democratic, and about 2 of them are brought in less than I think it was less than 10 points. So those are up. So what they're doing now with this new district is they're looking to take over 30 seats and give the Democrats 8 seats. Everything Ron just said. To add, and I just want to add this to what he said, and that is that this is multi-layered. Trump is pushing this because he is playing off of the Steve Bannon executive powers, and he wants to be able to have control even beyond the next 3.5 years. He wants to be to be able to control the Republican Party for the remainder of his life. That's what he wants to do. But what undergirds this is white nationalists, white supremacists, looking at the browning of this country and doing everything that they can do to hold on to the privileged power that whiteness has in America. So that's what this is about. Now, the last thing that's about politically is the Republicans no longer want voters to pick them. They now want to pick their voters. And so this is an attempt to make sure, to guarantee that to go back to the Bannon plan, to guarantee that they hold on to Congress beyond the midterms, beyond the next presidential election, and that it sets Vance or whoever else is going to be the Republican candidate up on a trajectory to be able to control all 3 branches of government for the next 50 years.
Well, one of the things I do want to say, thank you, brought up some points in terms of the makeup of because they presented the map today. The map was presented today. She was pleading, what we heard earlier, she was pleading for them not to do it. But they presented the map today in terms of the redistricting and the areas they wanted to redistrict. To your point, those 5 additional districts that would give them the 30 that they need to control in Texas. So I want to just bring that point out. But the other point that I want to bring out is that we talk about the white nationalists, and we're talking about those individuals that we're talking about the white nationalists. I'm gonna have to call you back. I'm doing a podcast. I'll call you back. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you calling. We're talking about the white nationalists. The white nationalists and what the white nationalists are doing is white superiority, because it's all whitening of the country, right? And keeping control and keeping power. But let's talk about this in terms of the white Christian nationalists. The white Christian nationalists and the message that they're sharing in their churches, and the Paula Whites and all of them who are sharing in their churches in terms of the message, in terms of how and what the Bible says and how the Bible is teaching, and then how many people are falling under that. Remember, out of slavery, they used the Bible to enslave black people, right? They used the words of the Bible to enslave black people. So we're coming back to the same kind of thing that's happening today in the white Christian evangelical nationalist movement. So they are part of this whole scheme of doing away with black and brown. in this whole country. And anyone that's not thinking about the superiority of a certain race controlling and still being in power. You can call them Republicans, you can call them Democrats, you can call them independents, you can call them whatever you want to call them. But the reality of it is that when you, to your point, Ron, why is there no real pushback from anybody other than we mimicking what the other people are doing? We're going to mimic what the other people are doing. And so if you're mimicking what I'm doing, whatever I'm doing, then you supporting what I'm doing by mimicking it. You don't have a plan of your own. You don't have a strategy of your own. You don't know what you're going to do to counter this other than what they doing. So what they doing, so we're going to counter this. A football team or a basketball team or a baseball team or any sports team, if they counter what their opponent was doing, guess what? They would lose because they would already know their play. Because they made the rules. They made the rules. They made the rules. So if I'm making the rules and you copying what I'm doing, then how can you beat me? How can you beat me at my own game when you copying me? So when we look at the Democratic Party, what is the Democratic Party doing? What is their plan? What is their strategy? What are they going to do to look out for the least, the less, the lost, and left out? Now, the point that I want to bring out, if people was really sincere about looking out for the least, the lost, and the left out, when the governor called this special session, we're supposed to be to look out for the young people, those kids that was killed in the flood, and the other people that was killed in the flood in Texas. That should be the focal point of the whole thing. Well, the Democrats crying about that, looking out for those individuals, as you said, Ron, looking out for the people, the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. Where are they? Where are their conversations about that? Now they're planning on what we gonna do to counter what they doing. I think that when I came along, the Democratic Party was more about looking out for folks. They were more for looking out for people. That message is gone. It's gone. It does not. We do not hear that anymore. It's no message of looking out for the least of them, those that are left out, those that are marginalized. That message is gone. It's gone. It's gone. So right. if they don't get a message where they're looking out for the people, for real, for real, and not trying to copy what the Republicans are doing, we're going to stay in the same soup. We'll never get out. And I'm not Democrat nor Republican. I'm for the least, the less, the lost, and left out. If the Republican was looking out for the least, the lost, and left out, I would be beating the drum for them too. But I'm not beating the drum for the Democrats. I'm just saying they're not looking out for the people. They're not looking out for the people. That's the problem. We're not looking out for the people. We're looking out for our own individual interests. Go on, Ron. Yeah.
Right.
Go.
Following up on that point about the people, because there's so many elements to what you brought up about Christian nationalism, white nationalism, and this confluence of race, economics, and politics on these issues, bringing up the welfare and plights of young people in this nation, particularly what happened in Kerr County, where we have about 50 young people who were swept away in tragic defunded efforts to put flood sirens there so that communities can be quickly alerted to when waters are rising, double and triple rate speed in 20 and 30-minute intervals. So we bankrupt our local governments to be unable to put up for the welfare of young people. The Trump administration on July 1st froze $7 billion in monies that were designed for out-of-school time programming, put in institutions like the After School Alliance, the Boys and Girls Club of America in jeopardy of having to suspend programming mid-season. It's amazing to see this society continue to bankrupt the future and present of our young people. We're talking about the least, the lost. Our young people are the most vulnerable, and these are the populations that adult politicians consistently rob and consistently put in vulnerable situations to give tax benefits and tax cuts and government subsidies to wealthy adults, wealthy men who, are the heads of corporations, who are the power brokers in this society. And when you have many of our faith centers supporting this systemic bankruptcy of our future, to overpad the wealthy, it becomes systemic in this culture that we value decadence, that we value the ones who are institutionally putting most of us, and specifically the least, the lost, and left out, right in the vice grip. In talking about the political apathy of any opposition to this nihilistic threat, it's amazing the Democratic representative from Texas, she introduced her fight against this latest gerrymandering, again, here mid-decade, which circumvents rule of law. She contextualized this current fight stating that the Democratic Party and other progressive groups in Texas just completed legal battles to deal with the 2020 redistricting that the Texas Republicans did that was as illegal then as what they're trying to do now is illegal now. And so we are seeing the conservatives and Republicans, particularly at the state level, being able to stack legislation on top of each other without any legitimate political opposition from the other side. That they have become so effective with ramrodding their agenda through that Democrats are responding to now almost generational amounts of legislation that Republicans have been able to put in place without any effective institutional opposition. It's really becoming something we need to take stock of as ministers, as organizers, as educators and advocates for those who may see the political system as too corrupt for them to participate, who may see the political system largely as a game that the overlords are playing to make us, the little people, believe that we have a legitimate shot. So I just think we're putting the real legitimacy of the system in question by highlighting some of these things that are happening in states throughout the nation right now.
All right, let's come back. Let's see if Shannon has something that he wants to, jump in on that. And Shannon, do you have a viewpoint on that? Hold on for a minute. Your mic is off. Let me turn your mic on. Hold on for a minute. Let me turn your mic on. Your mic is off. We definitely want to hear what you have to say, because we know you got something to say. All right, Shannon. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. I think that we definitely just have to call a spade here. And, we talk about this big tent party, the Democratic Party, that wanted to, quote unquote, have a tent that was inclusive of everybody. But in a real sense, it marginalized a great many that were the foundation of the Democratic Party. Speaking of black men, speaking of the working poor, speaking of I could go on and on about those who as the tent grew and it included more and more people, it began to get so crowded in there that folks had to step outside in order to breathe. And as they were stepping outside of the tent, staying close to it, but stepping outside of it, others tricked them to say, hey, it's cold out here. Come over here and we'll hear your issues and we'll give lip service to your issues. So come over to this side. The truth of the matter is the Democratic Party has been full of crap for a very long time. And it has been placating, and it has been it has been saying one thing and doing another. It has been using voters for one thing, but serving others and the interests of others and coming up with interests that had nothing to do really with the base. Just segments of the base that they wanted to highlight. And so what happened is Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And so what happened was the Democratic Party got punched in the face. And they got punched in the face being full of crap. They got punched in the face placating and playing games. They got punched in the face not having a plan and marginalizing the core of needed to really give the Democratic Party culturally the cultural capital that made the party that it was. And so it needs to tap into that. And really, to be honest with you, I don't know if the party ever will be able to do that. I don't know if they'll be able to do that. I'm not sure. I'm reminded of something that I've said on this air several times, and that is that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. And we see this over and over and over again. They will fall in line and they will push whatever it is, excuse me, that they need to push. Now they're going to fight and they're going to say one or two things, but within 1 or 2 news cycles, you're going to see someone getting right back in line, or you're not going to hear anything else about them anymore. And the Democratic Party is busy falling in love with a bunch of, so there's a lot of focus problems. There's a lot of cultural problems. There's a lot of sincerity problems. There's a lot happening in the Democratic Party, and I just think that it's lost its way. It gained the world with Obama. It gained the world with Clinton. It gained the world with Biden. It gained the world with Ossoff and Warnock. It gained the world. But I think that it's really beginning to lose its soul, and to the nihilism that Ron just spoke of. That's really what it's trading in now.
Well, let me can I add my 2 cents? You don't mind if I add my 2 cents, do you? I just want to make sure I can add my 2 cents. You don't mind, do you? I'm gonna come back because I want to add my 2 cents to this whole discussion, because it's key and it's relevant in terms of where we are with what's going on. And I think one of the things that we're doing is we're talking real straight talk. We're not talking that stuff that make people feel good or make people comfortable with what's going on. We're talking about what's real. This is what's real. We have a party that we have supported for years and years and years that has not served us well, and is not served us well. That's why I tell people over and over again, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, because I don't see anything from either party other than billionaire, millionaire. Because there's no way possibly that nobody's raising sand about Donald Trump and that plane and the money that he's making as the president of the United States, when everybody knows that's a conflict of interest. Everybody knows it's a conflict of interest, but yet you couldn't do it on the local level. You couldn't do it on the state or county level, but you can allow him to do it on the federal level because he's the president of the United States and he has immunity, so he can commit any crimes he wants to commit as long as he's a president of the United States, because he is above the law, because he is the president of the United States. I mean, this is real stuff. There's not enough unity or coming together to deal with the issues that we see. How can you lock up somebody for marijuana? How can you lock up somebody for committing a crime when you got a man that's got 34 of them and sitting in the White House? I mean, just really, but nobody, they're not really dealing with the issues at hand in terms of, don't talk about crime and people committing crime when you got a criminal in the White House. When you criminal in the White House, when you got a criminal who is taking over the Justice Department, the FBI, and everything else, and they're creating all of these tariffs for us in terms of, let me tell you what happened to me the other day, Ron, you and Shannon. I needed some razor blades. So my wife and I, we go to BJ's. Now, I'm not that conservative about spending my money, right? I don't get crazy about prices. When I went in BJ's, I said, well, BJ's a wholesale warehouse. I said, I'm just buying my blades here. I went to the cash register. I'm thinking the blades were one price. The blades were $48. We bought three things, and it was $85. So I'm saying this is real. This is what I'm talking about. Real, what's happening now for a man say he was going to lower the prices, he was going to do this, and he was going to do that. And people are suffering right now because of what? Because of the price. That's what I'm saying with the Democrats. Ain't nobody saying they're not fighting it hard enough. They're not. I don't care nothing about numbers. I said that last week. I talked about Lucy Macbeth, and Lucy Macbeth not voting that he be impeached, and Sanford Bitch is not voting that he be impeached. They're not fighting hard enough. I'm not voting for somebody because they're a Democrat. I'm not. I will not. I'm voting for people who's going to be standing up for the least, the less, the lost, and the left eye, and everybody should. But we're in a pickle now because who is that fighting for the least, the lost, and the left eye? Who's standing up for the people? Who's really fighting for the people now? Who's doing that? You know, we talked about last week, we talked about the bill they slipped in to create the 1099s for employees to start having to be contractor employees with no benefits. No benefits. Who's fighting for the least, the less, and the law? Who's speaking up for the people? I mean, really, other than we doing it, then you got some other people that doing it, but I'm talking about those people who sit in the seat of power to set policies and make decisions that affect our life. See, what we can do, we can raise all the hell we want to out here on the outside about it, but they're the one that's voting as to what these policies are going to affect our life, whether it's local, whether it's county, whether it's state, or whether it's federal. We have to make sure that we have to begin to help educate people about voting. Yes, we tell them to vote. And we see people that are falling out. Even she said in Texas, their numbers have failed out. She said they have the lowest voting population in anybody in the whole United States. That's what she said. Now that's what she said. Hold on a minute, Sean. Let me get your mic on, so I know you're trying to say something. But that's what she said. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what she said. Yeah, going on. We talking about voter access.
What you running the principal thing? You cutting our mics so you can talk then when we got something to say? You gonna cut our mic back on?
No, it's not that. It is because when you know, it's sometimes you be a little brevity. You need a little brevity.
Is that right?
No, it's not. It's not that. It really is not. It's not that. Go on.
I got you. You said something. You said they're not fighting.
Right.
Or they're not fighting hard enough. And I don't want you to miss the point that I'm trying to articulate on this air tonight. They are not fighting the fight because they don't know how to fight. This is a party that's trading and becoming a political class. This is not an activist party. This is not a labor-led party. This is not a community-led party. This is not a party of the people. It's a party of the donors. And the difference between that is when you have these flower child, right? You got this love group, right? This party that falls in love. And then you have this real donor party. In other words, the Republican Party is the donor party. It's the party where the donors, it's their party. Okay? And so the Democrats are trying to keep up and with the donor because it becomes a money game. It's a money game. I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you probably could win a congressional seat for about $500,000. You can't do that today. So you have, if you're not a billionaire or if you're not a millionaire, a multimillionaire, then you have to be doing the bidding of a multimillionaire or a billionaire that's going to put you in office. That's absolutely.
Let me stop you right here at this point, and I'm sure Ron won't jump in at some point. So you're saying that they bought. You say they're bought by the donors. But let me just say this though, Shannon. Let's say this.
Absolutely.
But whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? We don't contribute to candidates' races. We don't donate to candidates' races, so they have to raise money to run, right? So let's go back on the community, those people who they serve. Well, if you paying me to work for you, then I'm gonna do what you want me to do because you paying me.
Why should I give you my money? Why should I give you my money when you don't speak to me?
Right.
Why should I be supporting you when I'm the least, the lost, and the left behind, and you ain't speaking my language?
Right.
You coming to me speaking Mandarin, and I'm in a crisis, and you want my money? No, you're not gonna get my money because you're not dealing with my grind. You're not dealing with my day-to-day struggle for survival. And so that's why you're not getting grassroots money, because you're not really dealing with grass issues. You're mimicking the donor party and you're being led by the donors. The donor party is running both parties because the donors are running both parties.
They are, because they give some money to the Republican, they give some money to the Democrat. They do both.
When I say the donor party, and I want Ron to come in, when I say the donor party, I'm saying that on the Republican side, the donors vote, the lion's share of the donors the business class, they vote Republican. Okay, but every now and then there may be some interest, so they come over and they will support a Republican and the Democrat, and the Democrats need them because they're not speaking to the issues of the grassroots, so they're not galvanizing the grassroots to be able to do true funding to be able to put folks in. So you have millionaire, billionaire thinkers. You no longer have teachers and farmers who are in Congress. You no longer have preachers who are in Congress. You got Gordon Gekko in Congress now, so he doesn't give a damn about the working class poor. He does. He'll speak to it, but he really doesn't. He just needs them to get him elected, vote me, and after that, I'm going to do what the donors tell me to do.
Well, I mean, I think that the point that you make is the valid point when we talk about Lucy Macbeth and Sanford Bishop not voting to impeach him. Thank you. That's a valid point. That's a valid point, very valid point, because we know that they give money to both Democrats and Republicans, because we got some Democrats that really are Republicans. They're not Democrats, not Democrats in terms of what Democrats should be standing up for. But go on, I know you waiting your turn to say something, so we're going to give you that turn now. And your mic is on.
I want to really help us define what we mean when we're talking about the Democratic Party having a lesser influence and impact on policy decisions at both the federal, state, and local level. What we see the Republican Party doing a masterful job over the last 50 years is building a civil infrastructure of think tanks and other ancillary political organizations that write legislation for Republican representatives at the local, state, and national level, that do the research for the Republican Party so that their front men and front women are not bogged down with having to do 5 and 6, 7 jobs. We're talking about right-wing conservative think tanks like the Cato Institute, the Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise Institute. When we start looking at the multicultural coalition that is supposed to be the political opposition, what is the civil infrastructure behind our issues when we're looking to raise the federal minimum wage over $20 an hour? Do we have a think tank that is doing the political research, that is doing the polling, that is doing the legwork, that makes it easy for Democratic and liberal politicians to be able to have a message to give to the American people? I think we have to really look at what are the alliances and what are the institutional supports, the corporations, the foundations. Where are they in support of liberal and progressive policies that rebuild the American infrastructure, that give worker rights back to American workers so that we can afford to purchase a home and raise our families off having a single job? The same way, I mean, America for almost 30, 40, 50 years in the mid 20th century, you could live a quality middle class life off single employment. That's almost unheard of today. And where are the civil infrastructure that continues to push the needle in between elections? If you're a liberal, if you're a progressive, we are expecting you to have such a Herculean effort and enterprise that through the charismatic personality that you exude and your persuasiveness on the issue, you are supposed to galvanize the waves of apathetic and despaired Americans who've been sitting on the sidelines for the last X number of years to rise up as one to get us the momentum to get over the hump and political opposition. That is such an outdated and impractical model for progressive ideas to become centralized, that we have to get away from this Herculean, what did they call it in COINTELPRO when they were investigating Dr. King and Malcolm, the messianic figure? There's always this theory
Stop the rise of the Black
that
Messiah.
Exactly.
Right,
that
right.
all these progressive issues need to have some centralized messiah in order to get them into the mainstream. I think that is one of the greatest fallacies that keep progressive issues on the sideline, that make building a political machine and political alliances that make the things that make our lives easier more and more feasible. We're so far away from building that type of apparatus because in our minds we are still so overly romantic about the liberal proposition. We're overly romantic about what it means to have a decent middle class life where, you know, your property value goes up without you being overtaxed. You can receive a raise on your job without your employers and economic overlords rising inflation that's going to eat up your raise before you even take it home. When we talk about institutional level hegemony, that's where we're at. Even though Trump is a figurehead of white nationalism, even though Trump is a figurehead for a lot of these elements that are binding our hands and hardening our hearts, he is only representative of a larger infrastructure and coalition of institutions that are doing this daily grind work to make sure hospitals are closing in rural areas throughout the nation, to make sure we continue to disinvest from paving roads and making sure our bridges and levees have the proper support so that we can go to work and come home in confidence that our public infrastructure can sustain us. I just feel we're so unimaginative on the progressive side. And we have aided the Republicans in making so much of our agenda sound impractical. That as soon as you bring up after school programs, as soon as you bring up retirement benefits for low income workers, the first thing everybody says, how much is going to cost? How much is going to cost? Do we have the money for it? While we never say a word, while we give tens of billions of dollars to corporations like Monsanto that continues to genetically modify our food, while we continue to allow the Pentagon to be the largest publicly supported program in this country. It's getting beyond comprehension for me on some of these items.
Well, so, let me just say this. Let me say this. As we getting ready to close out, because this is going to be a be to continue too, because this discussion is much needed. Because one of the things is that people got to start thinking out of the box, because we are the problem too. You know, we're the problem too. You know, you got organizations like the Urban League, you got organizations like the NACP, you got all of these organizations that's been around for years and years and years. But we say to them, what are they doing? They are doing stuff, but are we supporting the stuff that they're doing? Do we know what's coming out of that? Do we really follow them in terms of when you talk about the study, the strategists, and who's doing these kinds of things? Are we really in tune to the kinds of things that they're doing? Do they have the kind of, because a lot of their money comes from grants that run the program that they run, right? So if programs got, I think about SCLC, because, you know, and SCLC back in the day, SCLC was funded by churches, by the unions. These were the people who funded, you know, the SCLC, the day-to-day people, membership to SCLC. This is how these things work, right? So, but then you had Brian Rustin, who was a strategist who helped, you know, and we, as we look back in history, we give Dr. King credit for all the work that he done as a leader, but there was some other people putting data and information together in terms of strategies as to how we go about doing what we're doing. Somebody's phone is vibrating. That's what that is. Whose phone is vibrating? One of y'all phone vibrating. Okay. But what happens is that we have to look at, to your point, Ron, we have to look at people who are already doing this and working on strategies and buying into the strategy that they're working, the progressive, right? If we're going to move forward in terms of defeating a lot of the stuff that our young people will have to suffer, our young people will have to suffer, because all the work that has been done, we're going backwards. We're going backwards because some people have forgotten from where they came from, and some people don't even know how they got there. They just know Dr. King them did something. But the reality of it is what are you doing? What are you doing? And who are you? Oh, hey, Shannon, you remember we was at CBC one day, and I'm going to end with this. And the brother was talking about all these HB schools, right? He said, how many people go back and that got all this money that contribute back to the HBCU schools? Right? When Donald Trump talking about stop funding them, we got enough people who graduated from these schools who making money that they can put money back into the schools to keep the schools going. But are they doing it? And that's what he was saying. Are they actually putting money back into the school that help make them who they are today and being successful as they are today? Are they really doing it? Right? So we have to look at ourselves too. What are we doing? And as a people to make our lives and our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren lives better. What an endowment will we leave for them? And I'm not talking about money-wise, but I'm talking about this living in a land that is so prosperous, living in a land where we're supposed to be free when they find out that they're not really free. When they find out that we're not really free, we was been duped all this long that we were free, but we're not free. Because the first time they hear someone call them the N-word, I remember my daughter, who's 45 now, told me she was riding the model train, and she sit down on next to this Caucasian man, and he told her she had to move. So you got to move. She said, I ain't got to move. He said, yeah, you got to move. You can't sit beside me here. So it ain't changed, Ron. It ain't changed, Shannon. And they're going to be faced with that one day. If not now, they will. But we got to fight and continue to do like we're doing now and standing up and speaking truth to power. And I thank both of you gentlemen for always being so willing to say what's on your heart and your mind and speaking truth so that people know. There are people saying what we're saying, but they're saying it in their little silos. But we need to speak out. We need to speak out. And we need to let people know. And as ministers, we definitely need to speak out and let people know what's really going on. But thank you so much for being on Straight Talk tonight. And we'll see you next week on Straight Talk Around the World with Joseph the Great Fan, the Preacher Man, and Shannon E. Jones and Miss C. And Ron, he's going to be back with us next week. We're going to finish this because we got much more to talk about. And we appreciate you guys for being our viewers. Do share. This is important for you who are watching too. If you still with us now, that means you really enjoying what we're saying and you believe in what we're saying. So this is what we need for you to do. We need for you to like us. We need for you to subscribe. We need for you to make comments, and we need for you to share. And if you want to give your opinion, all you got to do is just go out to Straight Talk News 1362@gmail.com and just put it in the email there. You may want us to elaborate on something else. We'll be glad to do it because we love to dig deep about what's going on. Until next week, he did it, y'all. He did it. Donald Trump is a pedophile. He did it. Like P. Diddy did it, he did it too. Well, until next week, may God bless you and keep you is our prayer.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan, the Preacher Man.